Evening and welcome to live coverage of the final round of the RWB International Constructors Championship Season 7. Live this evening from a very sunny and summery Oulton Park in Cheshire in the up in the north of England. I'm Rob Lomas and as usual I'll be behind the microphone for tonight's final 3 races to decide the outcome of the Constructors' Championship. It's currently Radek Schuller leading the driver standings from MO Plate and Marco Badowski. Radek having won the last 9 races in a row. Just ahead of MO by... I make that 90 points, I believe. I know journalists aren't exactly renowned for skills in mathematics, so I am actually going to double check this quickly on my phone. Yes, it is indeed 90 points. Wow, journalist able to do maths. Shocker. Crikey, that's a bit of a turn up for the books. As we are currently on board with Max Haynes in the 111 Mercedes. Now looking at Damien Lowe in the 97 car through turn 1 now. Very easy to get pinged for track limits actually on the exit of that corner there. Currently, Craig Gilbert-Wood fastest in the McLaren. Oh, there are a few drivers, Damien, Eddie Warden, MO Plate, Mad Al, Max Haynes, who are all yet to set a lap time in this session. So far, through the Shell Oils hairpin now. Heading up to the first of 2 chicanes here on the run through the back section of Oulton Park. And down the hill now towards Knickerbrook. Another slow chicane, although one that is very much understandable given just how fearsomely quick that corner was back in the day and just how little runoff area there is there. Also where Paul Warwick was killed in the early 1990s. Paul Warwick, his brother Derek, being someone who a name quite a few of you may remember. Raced in Formula 1, raced at and won the Le Mans 24 Hours overall for Peugeot back in the early 1990s. But it is MO Plate on pole position this evening, ahead of Magnus Dahlgren, Max Haynes, Martin Chafer, Adam Kaszowski, Nigel Wood, Craig Gilbert-Wood, Dan Birch, Hugo Gomez and Crawford Brown, excuse me, as Toby Atkinson, Nils Join, Damien Lowe. We've got the one of the Camaros there in 14th, then Pereira and Begg rounding out the top 16. And, excuse me, so as this is a multi-class race, there's also a handful of the TCX class BMW M2 Cup cars here as well. It's McDonald, Shipston, Crockett. That's your top 3 in the M2s. Radek electing not to take part this evening by the looks of things. There are, of course, dropped scores, so you drop your 2 worst scores, which means that as a result, DNFs in all of round 2 and a P2, a P1 and a P12 in the opening round at Misano mean that Radek is currently on for a perfect season. Jim Clark or Alberto Ascari. I don't think Ascari managed a perfect season in Formula 1. He won an awful lot of races though. But Jim Clark on a couple of occasions actually in the 1960s. 63 and 65, if I remember correctly, did a perfect season. In the actual constructor standings, it's currently Porsche from Ginetta, Audi, Mercedes, Aston Martin, KTM, Alpine, McLaren, Chevrolet, Maserati and BMW. Porsche with a fairly clear lead over Ginetta. It's 1,771 points, place 1,400. Audi in third on 1,203, and then it's Mercedes not too far behind actually, all things considered, on 1,192. Aston Martin on 1,195 and KTM on 1,169. So could get very tasty indeed. And of course in the TCX class, well, there's only one make of car. That being BMW. So it's pretty, well, yeah, clear that BMW have won that class. In the driver's standings, actually, for TCX, it's Tom Shipston from Nathaniel Shirley and then George McDonald and Peter Varga, with George Crockett in fifth. So McDonald, Shipston, Crockett in with a good chance this evening to score well in the class. Of course, as it's the Constructors' Championship, it wouldn't be the Constructors' Championship. We didn't have the narrowest track on the calendar as the final round. So, going to be quite an interesting 3 races, methinks, this evening. Also keeping one eye on the football this evening from Bramall Lane in Sheffield, where England are playing Sweden at the moment in the semi-finals of the Women's Euros. I won't spoil the results, but there is still about a quarter of an hour left. Anyway, they come out of Deer Leap now and are heading up to the start-finish line. And the race goes green now. It's a good start from everyone in the GT4 class. Currently looking at Magnus Dahlgren. Magnus Dahlgren going a little bit wide then, having a big moment on the grass. Coming out of turn 1, he's going flying broadside across the track and accidentally takes out one of the Camaros. I can't quite tell who that was, unfortunately. It's a bit of a shame there for Magnus. It means that Max Haynes has moved up into second place. Martin Schaefer is third in the Maserati, although probably glad that it's absolutely bone dry. So the only weather conditions the Maserati actually works in, to be honest. Craig Gilbert-Wood up into 9th place now, currently with Rafael Pereira in the Porsche car number 8, heading through the chicane now. And on board with Dan Birch in the Aston Martin. There goes the tyre stack on only lasted 1 lap before getting sent to the next realm, as we currently watch the field now down with Harry Hottie in 25th place in the overall and 6th in TCX. He's there's Mad Al there in the Ginetta just in front of him. See Kevin Shepherd Georgi Minga and Todor Kostadinov right behind in their respective M2 Cup cars. The Camaro that got taken out very much as collateral damage in the lap 1 incident, currently showing as being in the pits at the moment. Currently with Maddow heading on this long, fast run down towards the Shell Oils hairpin. Quite steeply banked corner as well. Now heading hard on the brakes into the chicane up at Britain's. Quite tricky because of the curved braking zone there, and then it's another long-ish run down towards Knickerbrook. Down the hill, thankfully, there's Eddie Warden in 18th place in the Ginetta. Got Samfire and Lowe just ahead of him. Samfire goes off and eats the Sunoco board and loses it there, I think, just a little bit on the exit. Don't think there was any contact there between himself and Warden. The Ginetta team, their hopes very much on Crawford Brown in 7th at the moment. And the blue and white Courier Cos-esque liveried machine. Just the so Hugo Gomez, excuse me, in the background there. There's Craig Gilbert-Wood. Still keeping pace with Gomez. He's got Toby Atkinson there, right there with him. Atkinson having a think about looking the long way round through the Shell Oils hairpin. Now hard on the brakes again into Britain's best overtaking opportunity, if I'm honest. Now with Peter Varga also coming out of the hairpin. It's one of the McLarens there, not 100% sure who that is. In fact, there's a couple of McLarens there. So McLaren not having a terribly good day. There's Gianni Lenz in the other Maserati. Of course, there was some big real-life news today. Maserati announcing that they're going to be building a GT2 version of the new MC20. Looks very, very nice indeed, if I may say so myself. Of course, the news being announced on the head of the Spa 24 Hours this weekend in real life, where we won't be seeing everyone running two wheels on the grass for the entire race, because real life physics dictate that if you do that, you will probably end up with half your tyres having grip, half your tyres having no grip, and the net result being, well, one-way ticket to the barriers, probably. Which is what it would be here at Oulton Park as well. Real driver circuit, this. Currently on board with Hugo Gomez, now with Ian Begg down in 13th place at the moment. Currently battling with Dominik Mijiewski in the Porsche. Porsche just behind him, and then there's now with Dan Birch battling away with trying to catch up to Max Haynes, but well aware of the fact that Crawford Brown is right on his gearbox. They come over Clay Hill in towards Druids. Very much not an overtaking opportunity unless you're really, really brave. Tremendously quick corner. Or hard on the brakes for Lodge. Up over Deer Leap now and heading back towards Old Hall corner, turn 1. A lot faster than I think some people actually realise Old Hall before the track plummets down through the little kink at Denton's into Cascades. Long, fast left-hander before it's down Lakeside towards Island Bend and the Shell Oils hairpin once more. Of course, Oulton Park is traditionally the home of the first British GT race of the season. Apart from that 1 year it was held at Brands Hatch because the teams had complained about the damage bills from racing at Oulton Park for round 1, and only for everyone to get even more extensive damage bills from racing at Brands Hatch, I seem to recall, and they decided to move the opening round back to where it belongs at Oulton Park on Easter weekend. Ever since, there's a whoosh there. I think that might be Pereira showing stopped up at Knickerbrook. There's Mizievski battling away with Eddie Warden. Was indeed Pereira. Dropped down to 17th place, just behind Johnny Lenz and Damien Lowe at the moment. Mizievski battling away with Eddie Warden. Warden looks like he's got the position though, so up into 13th in the red and white Ginetta. The light blue and orange, almost golf livery-esque Porsche in 14th at the moment. There's someone going off in a big way there up at the Shell Oils hairpin. Might have been Gomez, says Brown. And the next car is a Porsche. That's Wood up a position. So I think that was actually Gomez who went off there. Here's Greg Samfire in the McLaren. Just ahead of Magnus Dahlgren in another one of the McLaren's. Dahlgren being involved in that incident on the opening lap of the race, unfortunately. Nothing heat, which also took out a Camaro. Nothing the poor Camaro driver could really have done to avoid it. But still with Brown. Brown having a look up the inside into Lodge corner. And very, very well done indeed from Crawford Brown to move up in to 5th place overall in the Ginetta. Birch now down into 6th place with Nigel Wood just a little bit behind. Viewer Hemp's also further back down the road. Deal with Birch as they thunder down towards Islands Bend and the Shell Oils hairpin. Shepston, excuse me, just set his personal best lap of the race in the TCX class, still led by George McDonald. Head of Shipston and George Crockett. Still plate Chafer, Kaszowski, Haynes, Brown, Birch, Wood, Gomez, Gilbert Wood and Atkinson. That's your top 10 overall. in GT4 as well. The field having spread out somewhat. Is Birch heading hard onto the brakes into Lodge corner and then up dearly once more. Back through turn one now. Of course, Oulton Park, a lot quicker than I think some people realise as a circuit. Phenomenally fast in places and a real true driver's track. Is a big moment in front of Miziewski. That's Pereira in the black and red car, and Pereira I think has just had a fairly sizable impact with the barrier for good measure, unfortunately, with Varga now in 24th overall. And in classes, Eddie Warden goes off. Wow, that is a very rare mistake indeed from Eddie Warden. He's gone off at the Shell Oils hairpin. Dropped down a few positions there. Behind Ian Begg, behind Damien Lowe, and behind Gianni Lenz. So bit of ground gonna have to make up now. Believe you me, there are some quick drivers currently towards the back of the field there. Riding with Nigel Wood at the moment. Got Dan Birch just ahead of him, and Wood close enough to have a look into turn one, third gear through there in the Porsche. Really is a spectacular start to the lap. Very fast, very flowing. Also was a time when this was not the sketchiest track on the calendar. This British GT used to race at Knockhill Park up in Scotland. Also Thruxton for a couple of years as well, but the pit garages were too small, and there's a Maserati off there as well. Oh, I think that's Lenz making a bit of a mistake. Warden's going slow, letting a couple of drivers back past. I think Warden may have potentially instigated some contact there with Gianni Lenz, and that in turn sent Miziewski off as he was trying to take avoiding action through the Knickerbrook chicane. Goes Mad Al in another Ginetta. Al up into 14th at the moment. Heading up towards Druids now. Down this straight here into the final corner. Cracking over taking spot, actually. It's quite a heavy braking zone there. Head into the corner. First properly big braking zone, the lap. Not here at Island Bend. It is, of course, Shell Oils hairpin. Even then, because that's slightly, well, I'll say slightly banked, actually banked by a fair bit. Then have the big braking zones at Britons and at Knickerbrook for good measure. They don't actually use the full circuit for British touring cars. They did years back, I remember. They used the full circuit here, but in the end they decided to use the slightly shorter national circuit, which skips the island bend and Shellall's hairpin section, places with just a hairpin that rejoins the track roughly where the Britain chicane is. That increases the number of overtaking opportunities. Much slower and tighter hairpin there. We also have a big historics meeting here, the Oulton Park Gold Cup, which is a fairly major meeting in the historics calendar in the UK. The Wood going through in 7th place, car number 77. Please stay in this position, Nigel, please. For the sake of maths. The Gomez, though, wanting to have something to say about that, shall we say? He's looking, gonna have to go around the outside at Shell Oil's hairpin. Not quite close enough though. 1 minute and 50 seconds to go, so I can see Birch just in front of this battle here. There's a M2 in the way as well for a bit of lap traffic. So the front runners really should be on their final lap anytime soon, as some of the M2 Cup cars are actually taken to the escape road to not to gain an advantage, but to just let the these GT4 battles continue. I think we're going to be getting one more lap. About a minute or so left on the clock, and Emo having already crossed the finish line. So one more lap it is. Of course, this did catch a few people out at Brands Hatch, with Radek crossing the start-finish line with 1 second to spare and making everyone do another lap, which meant some teams had to do some fairly extreme fuel saving to make it to the end. Dahlgren in 17th place, as we see Mercedes going off. I think that's Haynes. It is indeed. Kozłowski barely comfortable, to be honest, now in second. Big old gap between himself and Haynes, and Emo has done a Radek Schuller and gone off into the distance. The M2 Cup cars all going off track to let the GT4 battles through. Emo still leading from Kozłowski. We're currently on board with Nils Join in another one of the Aston Martins. See Ian Begg taking a very tight line indeed through Knickerbrook there, and maybe taking a little bit too tight a line as Join in the Aston Martin pulls a few car lengths further ahead. But the checkered flag is out at Oulton Park. It's going to be Emo Plate winning the first race this evening from Adam Kozłowski. Max Haynes is going to come home in third place ahead of Crawford Brown. Martin Chafer is going to be fifth in the Maserati. It's one of Maserati's best results of the season, I think, actually. Ahead of Dan Birch, Nigel Wood, Hugo Gomez, Craig Gilbert-Wood and Toby Atkinson. Then it's going to be Nils Join and Ian Begg in 11th and 12th. Then Maddow, Magnus Dahlgren, Dominic Midievski, Gianni Lenz, Damien Lowe, Rafael Pereira, Sam Fire, Eddie Warden, and the Camaro, which I don't think actually managed a single competitive lap during the race. Meanwhile, got a very interesting battle for third place here as Varga sends it hard up the inside into Druids. That was very much the definition of a do-or-die attempt at passing. And it goes sailing into the gravel trap as McDonald beats Shipston in TCX with that, well, ambitious attempt at making an overtake by Varga, sealing fourth place for him ahead of Kevin Shepherd. Williamson is going to be sixth ahead of Kostadinov and Hottie, with Giorgio Minja having already returned to the pits early. Race in both classes here at Oulton Park. And we have, excuse me, two more to go. Just waiting on everyone to return to the pits first. Should be everyone nearly back in now. Just waiting on the last couple of stragglers to come home to the pits. The good news for Alpine in the Constructors. Now, got a short break before race 2. I'm going to quickly run and get a drink. I will be back in a moment or two. And after that quick drinks break to run and grab some refreshment. We just warming up the tyres once more for the start of the second race this evening here at Oulton. Heading up to the start-finish line now. I'm looking at Craig Gilwood, and it's in green. Flag is being waved. It's another good clean start. Oh, big off there for Crawford Brown. There's contact as well between the Porsche of Wood and Craig Gilbert Wood. There's absolute carnage in the GT4 class. Meanwhile, Emo's dropped a few positions, I think, in the Alpine. Yeah, so he's only dropped a couple so far. The very slow Maserati there on the outside of turn 2. That's Gianni Lenz. The Crawford Brown's retired to the pits already with some pretty heavy damage on his Ginetta. So after all that, it's seems it's Darger and Haynes play Kajowski, Chafer, Birchjoin, Wood, Atkinson and Gomez. Actually top 10 as things stand. The higher stack there just getting yeeted into oblivion as Kajowski's now moved up into third place in the Audi, just ahead of MO plates. Atkinson sending out the inside there of Niels Join in another one of the Aston Martins. Here's Rafael Pereira in the Porsche battling away with Ian Begg. And it is, of course, Debug in the Camaro. Debug, who was the unfortunate party there, and it's free wide heading down into Cascades. Yeah, that was pretty inevitable, unfortunately. As Pereira also returns to the pits with about half a Porsche GT4 car, and the rest of it being a crumpled, pixelated mess, returning via the medium of a dustpan and brush. Very big impact there for the Porsche. Real life would have probably taken out about actually a decent chunk of Armco barrier for good measure. So that's two drivers effectively out of the race due to accident damage. There's many laps. One car at the back there, coming through Shallow's hairpin. Trying to see that is a thing that might be Mad Owl in the Ginetta. He's the only. He's currently final position in class at the moment, and the well, of those still running, that is. That Pereira and Brown are both fairly firmly out of race due to their respective incidents. There's Emo Plate in fourth, battling away with Adam Kajowski and Martin Chafer. Kajowski in the Audi, Chafer in the Maserati, and Emo in the Alpine. There's Magnus Dahlgren. hoping to have a better result in this race than he did in the first race after his very unfortunate coming together with debug. There's Haynes just ahead of him in the Mercedes as well. 5-car battle for the lead effectively here between Dahlgren, Haynes, Kozłowski, Plate and Schaefer. On board looking towards Kozłowski as they head through Old Hall corner, down into Cascades now. And down this long old straight towards Island Bend. A very tricky corner in a GT3 car, as you have to try and get the car back across the circuit and then to be on the correct line for the Chad Oils hairpin. And having to really work on the trail braking a little bit there, methinks. Currently heading down towards Knickerbrook now. Oh, thought Haynes was going to maybe have a little bit of a cheeky look there at Dahlgren. A match-up akin to the first semi-final of the Women's European Football Championships earlier this evening from Bramall Lane in Sheffield, home of Sheffield United, the second division side at the moment. Second division side? Yes, they are a second division side because they didn't get promoted last season. That was Nottingham Forest, Fulham and Bournemouth, if I remember correctly. Down the back straight effectively once more. Out through this stunning part of the circuit, follows the lake around just on the other side of the trees there. I've got Wood showing as being in the pits for some reason. We'll keep an eye on that, see if he goes down further. Meanwhile, Max Haynes is up to second ahead of Dahlgren. Dahlgren's battling to hold on to position ahead of Kozłowski. No, there we go. It's now correctly showing Haynes as being in the lead of the race. Meanwhile, behind, Kozłowski up the inside at Druids and manages to pull it off somehow. Again, side by side still, as Dahlgren is really not wanting to give up this position. In turn, this is allowing aero plate to close onto the rear bumper of both of these cars. Oh, there's contact there between Dahlgren and Kozłowski. Oh, it's all ended in tears up at turn one as Damien Lowe goes off as well and collided with Debug. And I think there was another car involved in that as well. I couldn't quite make out who it was, unfortunately. So what we know is that Max Haynes is leading from MO plate. Then it's both the Aston Martins of Dan Birch and Toby Atkinson. Then Martin Schaefer in the Maserati is in 5th place, with Plate and Schaefer really having to thread the needle as they were first on the scene to the incident with Dahlgren and Kozłowski being first on the scene, having to take avoiding action, and both of the KTP Aston Martin drivers took full advantage. There's Giorgio Minga in the BMW. Currently McDonald, Crockett, Shipston, Varga, Williamson, Hottie, Shepherd, Kostadinov and Minga in the TCX Class M2. Very fun car to drive actually in real life. The M2 Cup car. It's a fairly standard M2. It's obviously got stripped out interior, all the safety paraphernalia that's needed in racing. So you got your roll cage, your FIA standard seat, your fire extinguisher, your kill switch, both internally and externally. A small wing on the back of it as well. As Kozłowski and Bruin are joining Wood, Brown, Miziewski and Pereira in the pits. That's 6 cars so far in the pits. It's a very, very unforgiving circuit. It's one where you make a mistake, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be having what can best be described as quite a bad day. Methinks. Currently looking at Craig Gilbert Wood. Now back to this battle here between Atkinson, Birch and Chafer. Chafer having a very, very strong run indeed in that Maserati. Doing a cracking job indeed in the big old beast. Thankfully there aren't too many heavy traction zones here at Oulton. I guess you got Britain's Knickerbrook and the final corner, but the Shell Oil's hairpin, because of the banking, actually can carry a lot of speed through there. In fact, Chafer's really closing the gap to Toby Atkinson, in fact, here. So this could be one to definitely keep an eye on. Atkinson still just about holding on to 4th place here from Chafer. So side by side into Cascades. See, close through there. See Ian Begg up into 10th in the M4. Yes, George McDonald out in the lead by best part 7 seconds ahead of George Crockett in the TCX class. You can afford to pretty much back off and almost coast home from here. Although, actually as a racing driver, that's when mistakes can start to creep in. When you back off a little bit and you're in the zone. It's what happened most famously with Senna at Monaco in 1988. Team told him to back off a bit. He did. He lost his concentration and promptly stuck it in the wall at Portier. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Atkinson and Chafer. Most other tracks, it wouldn't be too much of a consequence there. However, here at Oulton Park, most of the runoff area is green and doesn't offer an awful lot of grip, especially in the rain, because wet grass is, of course, has the effect of almost accelerating the car. You don't really lose much speed there. And what with the this place having absolutely masses of runoff area. No, of course it doesn't have masses of runoff area at all. It actually has, well, bugger all. Relatively speaking, I think only Bathurst is probably comparable. And even then, that's because parts of the track have about inches of runoff area, rather than say a few cars widths or cars lengths. Yeah, excuse me. That's obviously quite an interesting one. Williamson and Varga battling away for P4, P5 in class here. Yeah, Varga not quite close enough. So currently head through the Shell Oils hairpin once more. Heading hard onto the brakes now in towards Britain's once again. You can just see the hairpin cut through there. It's used most notably by the BTCC when they make their yearly trip up here. You can also see the other cut through for what's known as the Foster's circuit. Quite why they name it after that particular brand of lager, I do not know, but there we go. That used to be it there. Oh, contact between Kostadinov and I think Crawford Brown. Crawford not really even taking part in the race after his incident earlier on. He's basically come out of the pits to treat this as more of a little bit of a test session, almost try and get some more data, get some more running in ahead of the final race. Maybe doing a quick shakedown, maybe to see what the tyre pressures are like. Yeah, it's a bit of a coming together between himself and Kostadinov there, as Atkinson loses P4 to Chafer. It must have happened to someone on the run up to towards Knickerbrook, if not at Knickerbrook itself. Atkinson now down into P5 as the M2 of Minga gets out of the way there. They headed up towards Druids. Minga deciding that Druids being a particularly quick corner would be everyone's best interest to not get involved in a sizable accident. And so he lets this the battle for 4th place through. Dahlgren's a good 4.8 or so seconds behind these two, so we should be getting another couple of laps here, hopefully. As Max Haynes and MO Plate still battling away at the front of the field. About 1.7 seconds in it now between Haynes and Plate. Plate doing a bit quicker last time around, although Haynes' last lap was, well, so not last lap, excuse me, 5 lap average has been a little bit quicker. There's Crawford Brown going up the inside of Harry Hottie. Hottie with a bit of a mistake. I don't know if it was just him on its own, whether he had some assistance at all, but either way, that's enough to let Peter Varga move up into 5th place in the M2, which has been the source of some cracking racing this championship. Of course, we still have one race to come. Heading down towards Knickerbrook once more as this battle between Debug and Gianni Lenz. Meanwhile, out front, Max Haynes has a bit of a gap to try and close up. The Debug is right there with Gianni Lenz almost once again. Crawford Brown a fairly showing as being a lap behind. That's actually one of the Porsches. I think that might be Pereira fact, I'm fairly sure that is... No, sorry, that's Wood, excuse me, behind that battle between Debug and Johnny Lenz. There's George McDonald in the leading M2 Cup car. He has pulled an absolutely staggering gap so far. Been a very complete drive indeed from George McDonald. Damien Lowe sending up the inside past one of the M2 Cup cars there at the Shell Oils hairpin. Meanwhile, Varga and Hottie and Williamson for that matter all still battling away for class podiums. Meanwhile, MO plate must have been instant for Max Haynes somewhere, because MO is in the lead again now in the Alpine. Coming up over dearly for the final time in race 2, and MO plate is going to take the win in the Alpine. We're going to have Dan Birch in second place for Aston Martin. Martin Chafer, very strong third in the Maserati ahead of Toby Atkinson, Magnus Dahlgren, Hugo Gomez in 6th. Then we're going to have Greg Samfire in 7th. Anytime round about now, it's going to be Damien Lowe in 8th ahead of Mad Al and Ian Begg. Begg rounding out the top 10 there as Damien just about holds off Mad Al. It's going to be Johnny Lenz, Debug, and then the accidents, the list of runners and riders who had issues during the race, of which there were more than just 1 or 2. Meanwhile, it's going to be George McDonald to win in the TCX class in the M2 Cup. And now it's a case of playing the waiting game for this little battle to come through. It's going to be Peter Varga in 2nd from Dan Williamson, and Harry Hottie in 4th. Kevin Shepherd 5th ahead of George Crockett, Todor Kostadinov, Giorgio Minja and Shipston rounding out the field in P9 in class. Another fantastic race. Now we are getting ready for the final countdown, the final round of the 7th RWB International Constructors Championship season. And it's going to be coming up quite soon. So I was actually thinking of buying one of those little plastic kazoo things you can get in the party stores. And I was thinking it'd be quite funny to get one of those just for more for the memes than anything else, and try playing the intro to Final Countdown. However, time was very much against me today, so I didn't have a chance to, which is probably a good thing for everyone listening, because it means you don't have to hear me hear me attempting to butcher quite a well-known song. I'll be back in just a moment or two's time to get another drink, and then it will be lights out for the final round of the season. And as they head up through Deer Leap towards the start-finish line for the final time this season, the race starts now. It's a good, clean start so far. Emphasis very much being on so far because turn 1 is a bit of a pinch point here. It looks as if the GT4 field might have actually got through there in one piece this time. Well, I never. We've actually managed to get through turn 1 this time, so that has been a very good, clean start from all involved. Currently, Plate Kozłowski has made a very good start indeed in the Audi. Magnus Dahlgren's dropped down a position there in the McLaren. Currently looking at Dan Williamson at the moment in the 107 BMW in the TCX class, where the likes of McDonald and Varga, Crockett and Hottie are currently just ahead of him. He's got Shepard, Kostinov, Minga and Shipston behind in his class. Oh, there's a bit of a incident at the first chicane there between... Won't work out who, unfortunately, but I think everyone's back going again, which is very good news indeed. Max Haynes has had a absolute shocker of a start by the looks of things. Has dropped down a lot of positions, down to 17th in the GT4 class. Currently heading up Deer Leap to complete the end of the opening lap. It's Plate, Kozłowski, Dahlgren, Schaefer, Gomez, Wood, Birch, Atkinson, Groin and Damien Lowe rounding out the top 10. Debug just behind in 11th. We're currently with Debug at the moment. He's got Rafael Pereira right up his gearbox though in the big Camaro GT4. Oh boy. Pratt and Miller out in the States. And with some fairly trick bits installed as well. Also costs about the same as what a costs over $250,000. Remember the days when GT3 cars used to cost about $250,000? That was back in 2007 though, so yeah, just a wee while ago. And of course these would probably outpace a GT3 car from back then, it must be said. So, Dill, Plate, Kozłowski, Dahlgren, Schaefer, Gomez. That's your top 5 overall. It's still McDonald, Varga, Crockett in TCX. Donald having already pulled 1.4 seconds on Varga in under 2 laps here. You're watching Dominik Mierzejewski in the Cayman with the Mercedes and Max Haynes just behind him, and just in front of him the distinctive Maserati of Gianni Lenz. They are in the nicest possible way, of course. It is almost as if they've raided the colour cartridge multi-pack of the office printer. Cyan, yellow and magenta. So that has been a livery which has stood out this season, partially due to how bright it is as well, which at 8:24 PM game time with the headlights on Definitely makes life a bit easier for those of us in the commentary box, it must be said. As they all head up the hill towards Druids once again. Circuit, this very uphill, down dale, true driver's circuit. Craig Gilbert Wood showing as being P20 overall. Started damn sight nearer the top 10. I'm trying to think what's happened to Gilbert Wood. His pace is, well, his last lap was a 45.2. Mad Arrow's last lap just ahead of him was a 45.0, or it might have been the other way round, I can't quite remember, excuse me, but either way, they're both matching each other pretty well at the moment in terms of pace, so yeah, not 100% sure what's happened there to Craig Gilbert Wood to put him all the way down in 20th, but either way, that could have been caught up in the incident at Britain's on the opening lap. But I think given roughly where that was, that may have been more of an incident involving the TCX runners. It was as Damien Lowe loses it, unfortunately, all by himself. Knickerbrook waits for the field to clear so he can rejoin safely, although Debug is slowing down as well, I think, to let Damien back past. And currently in fact I think Debug has, judging by looking at Max Haynes here in 13th, there's Crawford Brown in 14th, there's the McLaren there as well, that's Samfire's absolute carnage ahead of them. I think Gianni Lenz has made a little bit of a mistake there. That's enough to let Miziewski and Crawford Brown through, but Miziewski goes wide at turn 1 as well. That's definitely going to be a track limits warning for the Porsche driver. Yeah, that is admittedly probably the easiest place on the track where you can actually get pings for track limits. It happens to just about everyone actually when the touring cars visit here, in all honesty. Yeah, as they all try and push it as much as they can in terms of running wide. Greg Samfire there in the plain black McLaren, pretty much. Got the fancier paint job that the other cars have, the other cars being the ones driven by Craig Gilbert and Magnus Dahlgren, as Ian Begg and another driver went off there at Knickerbrook. Just slid off the track. I don't think there's any contact involved. I think they all just basically went off at the same time. Decided to go off on one. I think that's what the kids say these days. I don't know, I'm too old for that. God, feels bad, man. Saying that, 25 years old, yeah, I'm too young, so too old rather, excuse me, to understand what the kids are saying these days. Clearly not down with it, am I? Oh, dearie me. We see Damien Lowe frantically trying to get past this battle in the TCX class as goes up the inside of Varga at the final corner, Lodge corner, up Deer Leap once again. Currently riding and focusing on Dan Williamson at the moment in car number 107. Strong third place at the moment in TCX, and the mint green car just ahead of him is actually second in class. It's Crockett. McDonald is there right in the foreground and now well and truly out of shot. And out of frame as we're focusing on Williamson, who I think may have dropped down to 4th place. There's a Crawford Brown in 11th at the moment, trying to get past some of this battle here. Samfire goes off and, oh dearie me, he's taken out quite a few. There's quite a few cars involved in that. Beg pushes. Oh crikey. Right, Mirzejewski. So that incident there, excuse me, involved. Maddow moves up into 13th, involved Crawford Brown, Max Haynes, Greg Samfire. Magnus Dahlgren's moved up 3 places in the ensuring carnage at Knickerbrook. And yeah, that was certainly quite eventful, it must be said. There's debug there in the big Camaro. It's not quite a TCX car, mate. It's the big GT4. Though that's going to be quite interesting. He's actually clear of this little group here now of Crockett, Williamson and Varga. So they should be able to resume their fight without too much interference from having to let trying to let the GT4 car through safely. Still a bit of a way to go though to catch up with McDonald, who is leading. There's on board with Dahlgren now. Been a tough evening for the McLaren driver. Martin Chafer is now up into 2nd place in the Maserati. I think that was Kajowski I saw actually at the side of the track there. They head up towards Druids now. I seem to remember there being a massive accident there in a Formula Renault race back in 2001. Seemed to call Heikki Kovalainen, the former Renault, McLaren and Lotus Grand Prix driver, involved in that. And I can't remember for the life of me who else was it. I think it might have been Danny Watts, but either way, two of them made contact on the run up towards Druids, and the end result was a very spectacular looking accident. As Gianni Lenz runs off in the Maserati, means that Dahlgren and Brown both move up a place. Max Haynes, I think, has actually come into the pits to get his car looked at. So, still with Crawford Brown at the moment in 14th place, as Haynes, I think, has actually come into the pits to get his car looked at. And yes, it was Danny Watts who had that off, hitting the back of Kovalainen's car on the run up towards Druids. And of course, this being open wheelers, the end result was a series of barrel rolls and cart flips onto the top of the tyre barrier, and actually split the car in half. Of course, he walked away from it all, thankfully, but it just goes to show how little runoff area there is here and how little margin for error there is as well. Crawford Brown and Magnus Dahlgren battling away for 13th place at the moment, as Mirzejewski gets past Begg to move up into the top 10. This is now the battle for 11th and 12th. Crawford Brown up the inside into turn 1 and gets the position there from Magnus Dahlgren. And good pass there from Crawford Brown, moves up into 11th place overall. And Lenz and Samfire 13th and 14th. Hugo Gomez in third in the Mercedes. Oh, a bit of a twitch there by the looks of things. It might have been Gomez, it might have been Schaefer. Either way, we all know the Maserati is a bit of an unruly beast at the best of times. And it's real handful, although here it's thankfully a bit tamer, a bit easier to drive. The fact that Schaefer is managed best of P6 in the final race in round 2 so far prior to this really does speak volumes about his ability to actually tame this beast of a car. Currently just under 10 seconds behind Emo Plate in the lead. If everything else has been going on, we actually, in all honesty, sorry mate, I kind of forgot you were leading. Best will in the world, but Emo doing what he does, he has been wanting to do all night long. Just get into a rhythm, get into a groove, bang out the laps, and just generally do a Radek Schuller, I guess, and also known as, well, head off into the distance and check out into his probably in a different postcode at the moment. In fact, at this rate, he might be in a different county by the end of the race. I'm trying to think what's where in terms of northwest England. Now, if we were doing counties in the south of England, I'd be relatively okay because I know the area fairly well. So, good job. There is always Google. At this rate, he's probably going to be heading towards Lancashire, I think, actually. So, Emo doing what he does best. Another 10th of a second gained on pulled out on Martin Schaefer. It's still Gomez third, Wood fourth, then Birch, Atkinson, Kozłowski in the Audi. We're looking at now in 7th place, then Pereira, Ben Yoin, and then Mijiewski rounding out the top 10. Then Crawford Brown, Magnus Dahlgren, and Gianni Lenz, Samfide, Lowe, Haynes, Debug, and Gilbert Wood in 18th. Then Crockett, Williamson, and Varga in the TCX battle. 1 minute 50 seconds to go here. And currently heading towards the Knickerbrook chicane for what is most likely going to be the penultimate time, not just this race meeting, but this season as well. Heading through Knickerbrook corner itself and up towards Druids. As Gomez is still in third place. Wood there. Oh, I thought Wood may have made a little bit of a mistake there, actually coming out of the final corner. I don't think he did. To be fair, it looks as if he ran a little bit wide, but not super wide. So, still keeping it within track limits, and still within about half a second of Gomez. Gomez is about 1.5, 1.6 seconds behind Schaefer. So Schaefer, barring a catastrophe, looks fairly set for second place. So And Mo play, well, like I said, he is taken very much a page out of Radek Schuller's book and checked out into the distance. Was been a crushing drive as the clock hit 0 here in the gloaming and the twilight at Oulton Park, a track where there is virtually no ambient lighting as well, for good measure. So it might be showing 11 minutes past 9 p.m. in game time, but I can assure you it is properly dark out there. There's Kevin Shepherd in the M2 Cup car just in front of Mo plate. Mo can back off now. He can practically dip the clutch in and coast home, as it's going to be Mo plate who takes the victory in the final race of the season here at Oulton Park. Martin Chafer's going to come home in second place around about now, and then it's going to be Hugo Gomez who has pulled a bit more of a gap out ahead of Nigel Wood. Dan Birch is going to come home in 5th place ahead of Toby Atkinson, who just about holds on against Adam Kowalski. Rafael Perez is going to come home in 8th in the Porsche ahead of Nils Join, who is just about going to hold off Crawford Brown, but not by much, only about 700ths of a second in it. Then Dominik Miziewski in 12th place, just behind Magnus Dolger, and then Gianni Lenz, Greg Samfire, Damian Lowe, Max Haynes, Debug, Craig Gilbert-Wood, and then Mad Al and Ian Beggar already in the pits. Some issues earlier on. George Crockett is going to win the M2 Cup class, TCX class here, ahead of Dan Williamson and Peter Varga rounding out the podium. Todor Kostadinov is looking set to come home in 4th place ahead of Kevin Shepherd, Giorgio Minga. There's going to be McDonald, Hottie and Shipton. As for what this does to the championship standings, there's a full 225 points for Mo Plate. So taking into account drop scores, I think Schuller is still going to be champion by dint of having... No, he won't, in fact. Excuse me. Schuller won't be champion. It's going to be Mo Plate who's going to be champion because Schuller has missed the round. I think it's only 2 dropped scores, not 3. So we'll have to double check that, but either way, it's going to be one of those two winning the championship. And we scroll down to the PCX class with Nathaniel Shirley not racing tonight. So that means that it's going to be quite close, I think, between Tom Shipston and George McDonald as to who wins that. In the manufacturer's standings, well, the TCX class will get that one out of the way. It's, well, there is only one manufacturer, that's BMW. So by default, BMW win the constructor standings, and in the GT4 class constructor standings, I honestly dread to think who has won that. It could be anyone, honestly, apart from KTM, Chevrolet, Maserati, and BMW, but between Porsche, Ginetta, Audi, Mercedes, and Aston Martin and Alpine as well, that could be quite a close one. We'll have to wait and see in the constructors' standings. Wow. What an end to the season. The 7th season of the RWB International Constructors Championship. Coming up on RWB International, we've got the All Request Friday back again for another night of fun and games on Automobilista 2. Then on the 6th of August, we've got a new championship starting up, the America's Cup, where we have the 4 American tracks in the game now. Dakota, Watkins Glen, Indianapolis, and Laguna Seca. And with a variety of different cars. The Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 at COTA, the 992 GT3 Cup at the Glen, the 488 Challenge at Indy, and then the Camaro GT4 at Laguna Seca. That's going to be great fun as well. And then in 38 days' time, on the 3rd of September, 100 years to the day, I believe, of the first ever race to be held at Monza, La Pista Magica. It is going to be 8 hours of racing as part of round 5 of the RWB International Endurance Championship. Wow. What a season. My thanks as always to Nate Newcomer for hosting the stream and sorting all of the technical stuff out. I've been Rob Lomas, and as always, it's bye for now.